Sports Council.
The KSSC.
Yeah, the KSSC. Sounds like a ship. You want to go to Kentucky?
I'm just trying to think of, I'm trying to look at something with KY in it. Because that's the
we know that's not the real reason.
That's
why.
the abbreviation for
the abbreviation for Kentucky.
Yeah, and KY,
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
things.
California. Talk about California, and you should say something about they should ban earthquakes,
Should I?
assault quakes.
Salt quakes.
the scary ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the scary ones. Frank said the earthquake wasn't that bad.
They're overreacting.
Yeah.
Did you see the video that went around with the guy's swimming pool?
No.
Is it sloshing a lot?
Yeah.
Well, now they just had another one.
Jeez.
They just had a 7.1 last night. Or
Yeah.
this morning or something.
Again?
Yeah.
An aftershock that's now been called the main event.
Oh, jeez.
All the others were pre-shocks.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
So there's still hope that they would just slide.
Break off.
Make Las Vegas beachfront property.
I have a couple of friends who live in Vegas that said they felt the earthquake last night.
Oh yeah.
Supposedly people in Utah felt it. I mean, that KUTV was saying their lights were swaying, and I'm like,
Somebody's tricking you.
Yeah.
I think what they were doing, well then I posted that Half Moon Bay had lava flowing into it. And people said, really? Send me the link for that. And I'm like, oh, good.
Ah, hell.
What?
That's what you say. Ah, hell.
Yeah, that is what I say.
Uh-huh. That's what I say.
Florida. Oh, Florida woman. There's lots of stuff. We're not moving to Florida.
Why?
It's a cartoon state.
Cartoon state? What do you mean?
Everything about the people there are cartoons.
Okay.
Wait till you hear what this Florida woman did. I think I told you. The Des News interviewed me, but it's not on their site.
Oh, about the Florida woman?
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't forget Trump sometime, second, third segment, something like that. Thanks.
Don't forget Trump.
No, don't.
So if we did move to Vernal, is there a way to, broadcast to here? For
I'm
the
sure
radio
there
show?
is. I mean,
'Cause
technology makes all things possible.
we don't want the radio show to go away, and we don't want to
You know
stop
what, even if
doing
I have to
it.
buy a piece of equipment, I mean,
Yeah.
Tom Gresham broadcasts from his house.
I know, so we should be able to.
Yeah.
That's like my main concern is.
You
I
just
wanna
need to
keep the radio-
like have a studio.
Oh,
You
there's
can probably
room
send
for
the
a
audio over the
studio.
internet.
Oh, there's room for multiple studios. Yeah, like I said, it's 8,000 square feet.
The main floor is bigger than our whole house.
Yeah, the main floor is bigger than our whole house.
Okay, well now everybody on YouTube knows you're contemplating a move to Vernal.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
No, don't say Vernal.
Too late.
We're looking at Morgan and Eden. But not Eagle Mountain.
Not Penguich. We're not looking at Penguich.
The Pigwitch?
No. That's where my brother-in-law's from.
There's a vehicle on fire. It's called, I think anytime the reports talk about vehicles on fire, they should call them carbecues.
Barbecues?
Carbecues.
No.
Unless someone's in them, and then it wouldn't be funny.
Somehow that made it more funny. Are you gonna share your Ariana Grande joke? You can't hear me.
Visit us in Salt Lake, West Jordan, American Fork, and Orem.
Are CBD oil, is that illegal under federal law?
I don't think so because it doesn't have THC in it.
Yeah, I think just THC is.
Okay.
Yeah, so just
I think.
THC. How much time we got? Do we have a countdown or?
On this third computer.
As of April,
What?
the DEA says hemp-derived CBD oil products are federally legal.
Oh, good.
What time do we go on?
I think soon.
Well, I'm just looking at the time.
1 minute, Mark.
1 minute, okay.
Are you gonna make your Ariana Grande joke?
You can. I said it to them and they didn't. They just looked at me like,
Well, that's because they're not a hip teenage girl.
she didn't think it was funny either.
Sure she did. You
She
got
thought it
an
was
eye
funny.
roll.
She thought it was so stupid it was funny.
Exactly. I'm probably gonna go get my nails done after this. I'm taking my 13-year-old niece to Ariana Grande next Saturday.
Oh
And we're
boy,
wearing matching outfits and hot pink nails and sunglasses.
you're like the awesome aunt.
I am.
She is the favorite.
I am the favorite, yeah. So I gotta go get hot pink nails. What?
I have only 5 words for you. From my cold, dead hands.
It's time for Gun Radio Utah. No apologies. A show dedicated to preserving and protecting your constitutional right to bear arms for your security and sport. Here's your host, well-known gun rights advocate and chairman of the Utah Shooting Sports Council, Clark Aposian.
What if they asked me to apologize?
Who's they?
Them.
Who?
The man.
The man?
The man.
The man? The heat?
Yeah. I would say no because there are no apologies. Welcome to Gun Radio Utah. I'm your host, Clark Aposian. Sitting across from me, Casey Jane.
Hey, hey, hey.
And Doran is in the studio.
Woo!
Doran, you can find us on YouTube. Search for Gun Radio Utah. You can find
And
us on Facebook page.
Gun Radio Utah.
Facebook page to see us live. We're currently operating on Dos cameras.
Yeah.
Dos cameros.
Oh,
And so Casey and I are both members of the Utah Shooting Sports Council.
hooray.
Casey's actually our media coordinator,
That's right. I coordinate things.
media-wise.
Media coordinator.
Bill is on an excused absence.
Yeah, he's shooting. I didn't know he was out shooting. Lucky
Well,
dog.
Well, that's what you do. On the this is still technically Independence Day weekend.
Yeah,
so,
might as well be.
Yeah, it is. And Utah Shooting Sports Council, go to utahshootingsportscouncil.org. Sign up to be a member.
Oh.
Sign up to, at the very least, get our email alerts and that type of thing. Especially important during the legislative session. But I would say equally as important not during the legislative session because there's so much stuff going down up at the hill
Up at
that that is preliminary to the legislative session, like red flag ERPOs. We're going to talk a little bit about ERPOs, otherwise called red flag laws. ERPOs are extreme risk protection orders. When you hear that, just think of gun confiscation without due process. Because they can take somebody's guns. The man, can take somebody's guns.
Yeah.
But there's a little thing called due process that they must follow, the law.
But they don't want to.
Well, it's not that they don't want to. I mean, there's certain groups. So we're going to talk about those groups. We're also going to talk about Kentucky. Way to go, Kentucky. They're the 16th to do something. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about California. And, we talk a lot about the California laws. It's because they are very close. And what happens in California generally
Should
is tried
stay.
right here.
Should stay in California.
Yeah, I should say in California. Yeah, we're going to talk about preemption laws as well. Preemption laws are those laws that mean that you don't have to, especially with regards to firearms, that you don't have to carry a book of the 29 separate county laws here in Utah as you go from one county to the next, or even cities. How many cities do we have, I wonder?
A lot.
A lot. 160, I'll bet.
Oh.
Maybe more than that, I don't know.
Sure.
We're going to talk about armed teachers.
Ooh, my favorite subject.
Armed teachers. Teachers with arms. And a Florida woman Florida woman. Oh, in fact, for those folks that are watching
Oh,
here,
yeah.
my wife got me this shirt. What does it say?
It says right to arm bears.
Right to arm bears.
And it's a bear with ARs. It's
A
an
bear
AR.
with ARs.
Because the magazine.
Oh, because you can tell
Curls.
that. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, now, an AK has a magazine that curls, but you can tell
Yeah, it's
a
an
little
AR.
bit. All right, okay. We're going to go to Florida. Who doesn't love to go to Florida? They call
You
it the
don't.
Sunshine State, but it's also a cartoon state as far as some people go. There's no lack of entertainment value in news stories about Florida people. So, in fact, you know that show Cops? It's been on a long
You
time. They
love
have that thing.
Cops.
I don't love Cops.
Can
I
I-
actually don't.
I
It
have
would
a
be
story
nothing.
about
It would
that.
go off the air. It would die on the vine if it weren't for people in
Do you know
Florida.
who watches Cops?
Who does?
The inmates. I'm not kidding. I taught
Really?
the inmates like 8 years ago, and they would watch Cops, and I thought it was educational purposes.
Well, we're also going to
them.
be talking about. I want to take a little time out, talk about shooting and wildfires and the connection, if there is any, and that is that. So Kentucky. So I got to tell you about Kentucky.
Oh,
All right. The governor. What's the governor's name? I just had it right here. The governor just signed. Governor Matt Bevin signed into law, went into effect last week on June 27th, removes the permit requirement for concealed carry of firearms. It eliminated the previously required 6-hour gun safety course, background checks, and $60 application fee. All right, what do we got on that one? I couldn't see it. Was that? It was that 5? Okay, so that's 5. Okay, I could do that easily. This won't take more than a minute.
Oh,
So you got to be 21.
okay.
And there are still restrictions, the same restrictions you had when you were getting when you had a concealed carry permit, but that makes Kentucky the 16th state to tell its citizens, you know what? We trust you.
Wow.
Now, unless you've committed a felony or are otherwise prohibited from having a firearm, we trust you.
Okay.
And I like that.
So are we moving to Kentucky?
No, we're not moving to Kentucky. So anyway, law-abiding citizens, 21 and over, can do that. Now, they can't carry in schools. They can't carry in daycare centers or courthouses or jails and places that serve alcohol. So that's a little different than Utah. We can carry in schools. We can carry in daycare centers. We can carry in places that serve alcohol. We have those in Utah, right?
I think so.
There's a couple.
I don't know.
Probably
They're
down
never
in-
open.
Yeah, probably in like St. George or something like that. I don't know.
Sinners Town.
Price. Probably in Price. So anyway, I think it was stated by the Fraternal Order of Police that it's going to essentially blood will run in the streets. Now, which is odd because usually the state Fraternal Order of Police, that's the group of actual on the line officers. Not the chiefs, not the administration, that type of thing. Usually they're for this. And like in Utah,
Yeah.
we never got any opposition from the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP. The Louisville Metro Police Department, the LMPD, they were also opposed to it, though.
Ah.
So, anyway. Too bad. So sad for
Yeah.
them. I see that. Thank you very much, Brad. Brad was waving. He was doing
Was he?
calisthenics
You
and that in there, telling me I had 3 minutes left.
You're not
All right.
paying attention.
So that's Kentucky. Way to go, Kentucky.
Yeah, woo-hoo.
And we don't have it in Utah. We just cannot have nice things.
We just can't.
We just can't have nice things. California, July 1st, went into effect. You buy ammo in California. One, I can't bring ammunition into the state.
What?
Not that I brought ammo into the state when I'd go there frequently. Just ammo to have with me in my gun if I was going to do some shooting or in my hotel, whatever. But I've got to look at the law. And anyone that wants to buy ammo has to be a resident or show a hunting license, something like that, and then they can only buy it. But now the residents, they have to have a background check done previous to the ammo purchase or at
Are
the
you
time for
serious?
$1. Yeah, for $1.
Oh, jeez.
And you have to also be previously registered with the DOJ. Well, interesting. So they say that this is going to cut down on gang members getting ammunition. Yeah, sure it will. Let's pat them on the head and say that's nice.
That's nice.
Anyway,
Crazy lady.
So, yeah, that's nice, crazy lady. So there's a little bit of something they're not telling you. So the DOJ knows what handguns you have and what assault rifles you have and that type of thing. So let's say you do not have a 45 auto. Takes 45 ACP cartridges. Say you don't have one of those, but you go to the store and you buy some 45 auto ammo. Okay. Guess what? The DOJ looks at that. They're going to be cross-linking. I have heard from people in the know, including Frank. Frank, if you're listening, he's
Frank.
told me. So I'm just not going to say his name because then they'll
go after him.
Yeah, the man will be oppressing him. So anyway, but we have friends in the DOJ over there in California, and they've said, not on record, but they have said, yeah, we're going to be linking these things up. You buy 45 auto ammo, and you don't have a 45 auto pistol registered to you? Ooh, oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the heat is going to be coming down on you.
Jeez.
So, and they have the DOJ, the Department of Justice there in California, has not taxpayer funded, gun owner funded teams to go out and search for these.
Wow.
That do nothing but that. So interesting stuff in California, but that's an interesting little, they never said that. They never talked about this when that new ammo law went into effect or when it was attempting to be done. But Governor Gavin Newsom used to be mayor of San Francisco.
Oh.
Yeah. He's he's unabashedly, unapologetically anti-gun. But it's very emotional. We were talking about emotion. Mm-hmm. Doran and I were talking about emotion earlier, and it's emotion makes you feel, makes you act, but it's not. It doesn't rely on that pesky data. It doesn't rely on data that shows that, yeah, the gangbangers aren't going to worry about that. All they're going to do is go to Nevada to go get their ammo, and a lot cheaper too, probably.
Yeah, probably. So
anyway, when we come back, we've got lots more to talk about, including hemp oil.
Ooh.
Hemp oil. Is that like an essential oil?
Yeah, totally.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk maybe a little bit about that and about armed teachers. Stay tuned.
Only if it's therapeutic grade.
Right.
Is that true?
Right. No.
No, I mean, I don't know what the feds are.
No, I don't think so.
All right, YouTube people. That means people who are watching on YouTube.
No, there's just a certain class of people called YouTubers.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull them up right now.
Who's watching us?
Yeah, chime in the YouTube chat.
55.
Tell us you're here.
Yeah, say hello.
It looks like Blue Light 11's already chimed in. Says, what's
That's
happened?
a Kmart special, Blue Light.
What's happened with due process? Please tell me if there's anything like it in St. George. I guess he's talking about
Okay,
the
I can't.
places that
So I
serve
just
alcohol.
typed in gun radio. I just typed in gun radio Utah on YouTube,
Uh-huh.
and it.
We need to set up an actual Gun Radio Utah channel.
Oh, here it is, live now.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
What was his question? Let me see.
Oh, he was.
What happened to due process? Yeah, no kidding. There is. Tell me if there's anything like it in St. George.
I
What?
think he's talking about the places that
The
serve
alcohol in St. George that
Oh.
we were talking about.
No, there isn't any. Oh,
Oh.
And KNRS. Listen, and you'll know.
What?
well, we're listening to the intro music.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
You're live.
I know. Hey, you know what? What I didn't mention, there's always bad news coming out of California, but there's some good news. Needles, California.
Needles?
Needles.
That
Did you
sounds
ever-
like drugs.
What? Well, now you've painted a terrible picture of the poor folks that live in Needles. They suffer through 110-degree temperatures
Why?
every day because that's where they live.
Well, that's stupid.
So Needles has a bit of a claim to fame. Do you remember the Peanuts cartoon?
Yeah, Snoopy.
Okay. What's that?
Snoopy.
Charles Schultz.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, he was from Needles.
Oh.
And Snoopy, remember Snoopy,
Uh-huh.
that little dog, his brother Spike lived in Needles. No, seriously.
Snoopy's brother?
Yeah, Spike. Doran had a dog named Spike.
Ah.
And so, homage to Spike on that.
Yeah.
Spike went across the
R.I.P.
Rainbow Bridge.
R.I.P.
All right.
Spike.
So the desert town of Needles has instructed, or the city council has instructed its city attorney to say, "Mother, may I please," to the California legislature, that they want to create a sanctuary city.
Oh.
I know what you're thinking. Isn't all of California a sanctuary for illegal activity and folks that... Mayhem, yes. Drug users and public... well, anyway. So, but no, this is different. This is a sanctuary for firearms laws.
What?
To an extent, yeah.
What?
California has a law that says you can't... Your concealed carry permit is no good in California if it's from any other state.
Okay.
You can't get a permit to carry a concealed firearm in California unless you're a resident, and if you live in one of the metro areas other than Sacramento, just forget it. The vast majority, geography-wise or land-wise, is actually pretty good, but when you get into the metro areas, forget about getting one of those. And different things like that. We just talked about the ammunition purchase. You have to do the background check, and your ammunition is now essentially registered. Your name will then go to DOJ. Well, they would like to create a sanctuary, a Second Amendment sanctuary, in which they would be immune to some of these state laws. Well, obviously, they know that this is nothing more than a poke in the eye to the
With
overall
a sharp
state.
Stick.
Yeah. So anyway, that is good on you, Needles, California.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. We hope that it gets a lot of press because obviously it's not going to pass. I mean, it passed in the city council, but then again, did Mayor Biskupski ask the state legislature for them to create a sanctuary city in Salt Lake City? No.
I was going to say, I
Many
didn't
of
hear
these things,
anything.
no. So I think Needles ought to just flat out just say, you know what?
We're doing
it is
what
a
we
sanctuary
want.
city. Yeah, we do what we want.
They should do what they want.
They should do just like you.
Yep.
You're a sanctuary
exactly.
city, just like Casey is a sanctuary person, basically. Casey, armed teachers
Rock.
rock. Okay. So in Utah County,
Oh, yeah, I heard about this.
you did hear. What did you hear about it?
Oh, I didn't hear a whole lot. Just that they were doing like practice drills for active shooter drills and such.
Yeah. So Utah County Sheriffs, they have a great range down there in Thistle.
Oh,
You know where Thistle is?
way out.
You go like
nowhere.
Highway 6 towards Price and that, and Thistle. Thistle used to be a town,
Oh,
and it's not really a town anymore. In fact, the main
Really?
street is the shooting range for
No
Utah County
way.
Sheriffs. Yeah, because they had a big flood and a mudslide, and there was mayhem going on. So, a wonderful range, and the Utah County Sheriff is really to be commended. Well, they have started a program. They're a little late to the party, though, because Utah Shooting
Better
Sports Council
late
has
than
been doing
never.
this for a long time. But I got to hand it to the Utah County Sheriffs. And thank you very much. I'm going to put that timer on for 5 minutes. In that they have groups of like 30 teachers. I'm assuming they're all school employees would
probably.
allow for that. And they put them through classroom training and actual range time training in scenarios that would be akin or likened to what they might encounter in an active shooter environment within a school. So at the Utah County Sheriff's Office range, they have a shoot house. They have the regular targets. They have steel targets. They have,
cool.
So that's really fantastic. So, and they, So I started reading the stories, the different stories, and this hit national news too. And I started seeing the detractors. And they just hate this idea. And so they'll come up with, some of them will just say a one-line, worst idea ever. Okay.
My
And
favorite.
then they'll have a frowny face.
My favorite is that an armed teacher will pull out her gun and use it on unruly students if
Yes.
they're not behaving well.
Whereas that is not specifically prohibited, it's definitely discouraged in the class.
Yeah.
But my
yeah.
question
It's
is, in
effective,
fact,
but
as I
yeah.
was reading some of the comments today, I read that exact thing.
Did
What
you?
if the teacher and this person who's obviously a little afraid of this whole idea starts to envision what the different possibilities, and they said, what if a teacher goes crazy and the teacher now becomes the active shooter? Well, what, you know...
I have no response
I guess,
to
you know,
that.
yes, that is technically within the realm of possibilities. That is a possibility, and they have a gun. But what would happen if a fireman carried around a gallon of gasoline and
Can I-
started lighting things,
can I
or a
tell
law
you a
enforcement
secret?
officer, or something like that? Yes.
I have a secret for you.
Oh dear.
Teachers are already crazy because they're already in the profession. No sane person becomes a teacher.
And so, do you favor these crazy people carrying guns?
Of course, absolutely. I'm one of those crazy people that carries a gun.
So, okay, all right. Well,
Exactly.
so they're getting some training, and I've heard, well, the training is not enough. I've heard just all sorts of stuff. But the
Yeah.
deal is this, you know. Oh, then I also hear, hey, they're trained to teach, and that's what they should be doing.
Yeah.
What do you say, Casey, as an educator? Hey, you've gone to school. You have, you know,
I have 10 years of education.
you have 10 years of education,
Under
and you're
my
working on
belt.
your doctorate.
Working on my
You just
doctorate.
have your dissertation left.
Right?
What do you say to people that say, hey, you're trained to teach, not to shoot bad guys?
Yeah, of course I'm trained to teach. That's number one. But I'm also smart enough to know that if in case of any kind of situation like that, I am prepared to go home alive, and my students can go home alive to their parents.
When I visited you at your school recently, I saw a fire extinguisher right outside your door. Are you supposed to use that in the case of a fire?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm
So you're
told I'm
trained.
supposed to.
So part of
So I'm a
your
firefighter.
teaching thing is to be a firefighter as well.
And first aid.
First
you know,
aid.
Kid
So you're also a
falls.
doctor.
A kid falls, yeah. I got to fix that somehow.
You're a doctor. Okay. So when you have a gun, that automatically makes you a SWAT team or police officer,
Totally.
something like that. Okay. No, folks, it doesn't make teachers, police officers, or anything any more than having a fire extinguisher outside your door makes you a fire person.
Right.
All right. How much we got left? We got about a minute or so. Okay. We'll talk about. Oh, while you're out, I'm just going to make this real quick because I don't want to forget this.
Okay.
When you're out shooting, it's dry.
Yeah.
There's lots of weeds. There's lots of dry grass. The humidity is low. And I was one of those folks that long ago said you cannot start a fire with a non-ferrous metal, copper and lead. It just won't get a spark out of it. Well, when your bullet is traveling 1,500, 1,800, 2,000, up to 3,000 feet per second and some more, that velocity and that sudden stop turns into heat. That heat can, in fact, create a spark. Enough if there's fuel and you have that ignition to start a fire. Be careful when you're out there shooting. But they passed a law that said, no, I got 10 seconds. So anyway, they passed a law. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later because we're running out of time on this one. But be careful when you're out there shooting. Be careful. Carry a shovel and some water and stuff like that. And clean up after yourself. All right, hang tight. We'll be right back.
Okay, we got a comment from Vern Reed.
Hi,
Hey,
Vern.
Vern.
What do you say?
He says it's good to hear they're doing that in Utah County.
Oh yeah. Woo woo woo. Go teachers.
Hey, Glenn is there. Hey, Glenn. We still need to when we get settled, Casey. We need to go get with Glenn and get those parts for the ARs. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want one that says no pew pew and pew pew pew.
So no pew,
He has that.
pew pew, and then pew pew pew.
No, just one pew.
Oh, one pew.
One pew.
And then pew pew pew.
Uh-huh.
For full. Okay.
He has that too.
Okay. Okay. That's fine then. Let's see.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, we have got to talk about this Florida woman. I'll make it quick though. Got about a minute.
Ever wonder why Europeans speak so many languages? Is it because they use language learning app in Europe? Bevel's 10 to 15-minute lessons and award-winning technology now speak Spanish, French, German.
You know, this is interesting. This is on a liberal site.
What?
Guns are bad.
It's that sheriffs. They talk about the sheriffs can't simply ignore new gun laws. And I think that if we took out, because there's some sheriffs in Washington and New Mexico that are saying, to heck with these stupid state gun laws, we're not going to enforce these. And this article goes on to say, hey, it's not up to them to do that or not. That's the law. Well, what if we just replaced every time they said gun laws and said illegal immigration or drug laws or something like that? Be an interesting article. So.
Utah with Clark Potion. Ivanka and I listen to Clark Potion and Bill and Casey. Clark is a great person, a nice person. I've met him. My son Don Jr. has met him. We like Clark. He has a funny last name, but still a great man. Clark is very, very knowledgeable about guns. Totally smart. I send my Secret Service detail to Clark Potion for training. They love him. In fact, if Clark wasn't so busy doing great things in beautiful Utah, I would hire Clark as my gun czar.
Oh, hey, thanks, Donald. That's very nice of Donald.
Don Trump Jr. liked my
Instagram. Yep. You and Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, we're buddies.
All right, welcome back to Gun Radio Utah. I'm your host, Clark Potion. Bill Pedersen is shooting. Somehow he got an excused absence to go shooting during the show.
Excused absence.
Did you know he was going to go shooting?
No, I didn't know he was going. I wouldn't have allowed it.
That's the voice of Casey Jane there. And you can watch us on YouTube or just type in Gun Radio Utah and click on the one that says live. And you can get it live. Anyway, so I got to talk about, I got a call from one of the newspapers here.
Oh, geez.
Talking about a story about a Florida woman.
Okay.
Need I say more? It was a Florida couple. All right, so this Florida couple is estranged. That's an interesting word. Estranged. Anyway, the man in the story had his own apartment. He was maintaining his own apartment. Anyway, they went to a court hearing, something about the divorce. And it didn't go as well as he would have liked, the man would have liked, apparently. But it wasn't the final thing. I think it was probably on division of assets, I think it was. But anyway, so he gets mad, and by one report, his previous wife, I don't know if the divorce was actually finalized yet, but anyway, the estranged spouse woman, by her report, she said that he rammed her car.
Ooh.
Okay, rammed the car and ran her off the road.
Oh, geez.
So anyway, that's one report. So they took him to jail.
Oh.
They took him to jail. So in the meantime, she got a protective order against him on her behalf. So she was the petitioner. He was the respondent. So while he's sitting in jail for a day, and he hadn't been prosecuted for this, he was just arrested, and there was no due process yet or anything. She got this protective order, and you can get a protective order without any due process. It's just, you go in there and you mention it. If it's good enough, the judge will usually issue those because they want to make sure, that just in case, oh, crud, we didn't issue one and the guy, went and killed somebody.
Oopsies.
Anyway, so she goes to this man's apartment.
Okay.
Go enter, and all the story says is enters through a locked door. Now, I don't know if she had the key or kicked down the door or whatever, but she took handguns and an assault rifle, so a semi-automatic firearm she took. Then she goes directly over to the police department and says, here are guns from my ex-husband, and he said he was going to use them against me.
Oh, wow.
That was a statement that she made.
Wow.
It hasn't been verified or anything. So the police take the guns, and then a few days later, the district attorney charges this woman with armed burglary. And as far as I can tell, she went into the apartment, one, illegally, with the intent of taking the guns. So that's a burglary right in itself. Once she grabbed the guns, now it's an armed burglary. And, oh my gosh, there are people on both sides of this thing just pulling their hair out, saying they shouldn't be that the woman shouldn't be charged because he had a restraining order. Well, that's true. A protective order means you can't have guns, but he didn't have possession of the guns. He was in jail.
Call the cops to do it.
Well, you call the cops to do that too. And who's to say that he was going to go to his apartment?
Right.
A logical person that doesn't want to be in possession of those guns would call a friend and say, hey, go into my apartment, take the guns out before I get home, and you keep them because I can't have access to them. That's the legal way to do it. Well, he wasn't even given that chance. So she went in and stole the guns. So they charged her with theft, burglary, armed burglary, and I think something else too. I don't know.
Excellent.
So I got the call from the reporter, and the reporter says, would that happen here in Utah? And I said, well, yeah, it would. It's very likely, not under probably our current DA for Salt Lake County, but it would happen in any other regular county. So, and it should, because, and I told her this. I said, when you practice or encourage or basically allow, either by approval or by not enforcing the law, violations of the law for good or for ill are fraught with bad juju. It's not going to go well. When you start just thinking of the law as an aside, as an asterisk, we'll apply the law, we'll obey the law as it is convenient.
Needed.
Okay. So when you take the law into your own hands, in this case, you know what? You're subject to the penalty. So there we go. I think this man was denied due process. So I also think perhaps the police department, on asking where the guns came from, should have some responsibility too. What were they doing? Taking the guns. So they should have asked, well, where'd you get the guns? Well, from my, Now,
well, I took them.
Apparently, now we do have I don't know if it's community property or whatever you want to call it. In fact, that whole term community property really bugs me because it's not the community doesn't own the property. But anyway, I don't know how that worked out. But if these guns were acquired during their marriage, it's very likely that she could have, that they were her guns too. And unless they had been decided in the settlement and so on and so forth. But they were clearly in his apartment that he was maintaining on his own. So the reporter asked, well, should we have a law that says they can do that? And I said, of course not. No. Now, how about other people that are not allowed to have guns? Should the police be allowed to just go in there and take the guns? How about people that are felons? How about people that are illegally here in the United States?
Yeah.
How about, if it's good for the protective order folks, then it should be good for all people that fit into the classification of not allowed to have firearms. If you are here illegally, if you are not here legally, one way or the other, you've extended your you've outstayed your visa, you swam across the Rio Grande, whatever it is, or you're a drug user.
Yeah.
You're a Category 1 prohibited person. You're a convicted felon. You can't have guns, not legally. So are we going to task law enforcement to go to all those people's homes and just take the guns? Or could some do-gooder, so to speak, just break into
Go
someone's
in
home
and get them
say a person that's here illegally, and take their guns and take them to the police and say, I should get a special badge to wear
Look at me.
just for when I'm doing these kind of things, and a pat on the back as well.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
your guns are my guns.
Yeah, I've heard this. All right, when we come back on Gun Radio Utah, we're going to be wrapping it up. We're going to talk a little bit about preemption laws and an article that was in the paper that I took offense to.
Ooh.
I did. I took offense to it.
Wow.
All right, when we come back on Gun Radio Utah, stay tuned.
Hey, this is...
Or diarrhea. Stan, that's funny. Are you experiencing panic attack or diarrhea?
All right, we're going
I'm
handheld
gonna
here.
talk to Dan and say, yes, what's this now? We're gonna do what? Are you gonna do?
We're going handheld.
You're gonna do the Wonder Years? Do you remember
Oh
that
yeah,
show,
there
Wonder
we go.
Years?
So here's a thought that I have.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can remember
You want
what
me to hold the camera while you do your thought?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
You were talking about people that aren't supposed to have guns, and I had a thought, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Drug dealers, protective orders, felons, illegal immigrants. Is that helping?
Not just drug dealers, drug users.
Drug users.
Automatically become a prohibited person when you're doing the illegal drugs.
When you're doing the drug.
When they're doing
When
the
you're
drugs.
doing the
Category one
marijuana.
prohibited person. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that someone who is prohibited from having guns shoots a gun in self-defense.
Yeah, you never give up your right of lawful self-defense. Never give up your right of lawful self-defense. Now, you can and should be charged with illegal possession of a firearm, but if the actual incident, the self-defense engagement, was otherwise lawful, you shouldn't be charged with that. It's not like fruit of a poisonous tree, so to speak. You know the reference?
No.
Okay, anyway, you can look that up. Fruits of a poisonous tree, it's a legal concept. So, yeah, I think that the shooting may in fact be justified and should not hinge on whether the gun was possessed legally.
Okay. All right, there you go.
I mean, it would be like, are we still on?
Yeah.
It would be like me bringing a gun into California,
And then
carrying it in my pocket illegally, possessing a loaded, concealed firearm, and having to use it in self-defense. Am I going to be charged with the illegal possession of a firearm? You bet I am, and probably for everything, including having it loaded, concealed, so on and so forth. But the actual shooting, as long as it was justified, there shouldn't be any charges for that. So, I'm sure they'll charge me for having a scary gun too.
yeah, a murder, death, kill gun.
Murder, death, kill gun. Yeah. I'm still trying to come to grips with Dan, the laptop man, Dan Young's. If you have a laptop or something that's not working right, that you get diarrhea from. Oh, Dan.
1 minute, Mark.
1 minute. I love whenever Sean Reyes goes
Oh,
somewhere.
there's a barbecue for Sean today.
Oh, well, I love when he goes places and people say, he says, "Do you recognize who I am?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're that PC Laptops guy."
And they're friends too. I've heard that. I've heard that.
There's the instant quote. Seriously? That was really fast. I know, right? And the online application only takes about 10 minutes. No pushing agents. And in most cases, no medical exams. It's fast. Why not? And after dinner, maybe we can celebrate.
Ethos is ethical term life insurance. 1 second.
That's
Keeping you updated and up to date on the latest news around the country and Utah on firearms, It's Gun Radio Utah. No apologies. On Talk Radio 1059, KNRS. Listen and you'll know. Your host, Clark Kaposian.
What song is this? Warren Zevon,
Yeah, that one.
Werewolves of London. Warren Zevon, what a fantastic. Lisa, my favorite. Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner.
Jeez. You're
Roland
just
the
like
Headless
that
Thompson
because Jim liked that.
No, I liked it.
Well, Jim thought it was cool.
Jim thought it was cool too. Also, another fantastic Warren Zevon, if you've not been initiated into Warren Zevon music,
I have not.
is Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
It's about this kid that goes off somewhere and gets into trouble with the Russians or the, all this, and sends a quick message. Dad, send lawyers, guns, and money. I've got into trouble. Fantastic. Warren Zevon,
That's gonna be
fantastic
our
music.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was an op-ed by a couple people I know, Derek Munson and Kerry Butler,
Oh, I found this for you.
with Utah Action.
Yeah.
So I think Utah Action and the Sutherland, the Sutherland administration. So the only reason I mispronounce it because they don't say our name right.
Yeah.
They don't say the Utah
They
Shooting
say
Sports Council, the Utah Sports Shooting People.
Shooting people.
Anyway,
So they're Utah Action.
So they wrote an op-ed together called "Guns and Suicide: Utah Needs Honest Search for Solutions," and in that article, they're basically saying that the gun folks
I've done nothing.
and have been obstructionists in this search for answers and ideas and problem solving and collaboration on suicide.
Yeah.
So I wrote a little note, and I don't like to necessarily get too political on my Facebook, but I said,
But you
Derek and
went
Kerry,
there.
I said, your piece speaks of a disconnect between suicide prevention groups and, quote unquote, the gun lobby. Nothing could be farther from the truth, and you know it. The Utah Shooting Sports Council has been working on this issue with the leaders in the field of suicidology. Yes, that's a real word. For the last 6 years. We've been to and hosted professionals in the field for years now. We've worked with legislators and state and county officials, worked on videos, pamphlets, PSAs, and have spoken alongside these groups at national conventions. We've worked with legislators, including fantastic Representative Steve Elison, to mitigate suicide in Utah. And the latest numbers show suicide is down. Mm-hmm. Our cooperation has been a model, a template that's now being used by other states to further collaboration between seemingly disparate groups. Yes, it is true that we differ on the ERPOs or red flags, and for good reason. That doesn't mean we're not committed to addressing and mitigating suicide in the state. Stop trying to divide us while we try to collaborate. Clark Kaposian, Utah Shooting Sports Council. So I wrote that, and I think Kerry Butler didn't like that I said that either. So
no, she did not.
So-
I think she was the first to comment on it.
I think so. So, we're going to be. In fact, I was just, 2 days ago. We had a big meeting
Yeah, you did.
with everybody, including the state coroner's office
Yeah.
and other suicide prevention folks in that, talking about this. And we've got some great ideas, and we'll be working on a plan over the next 3 years. We have funding for it through the legislature to deal with this. And we have good, the latest figures show that suicide is actually down.
Hooray!
And so we've been doing this for 6 years now. So, Kerry Butler, if you would like to, welcome to the table as a new person.
Yeah.
But, there are certain rules to play nice and not disparage other folks. All right. When we were talking about, hemp oil.
Yeah.
Hemp oil. So a question came up, get a call. Hey, can I have hemp oil not derived from THC,
But
the mood enhancing type part of marijuana or whatever?
Psychedelic mind
Okay.
changing.
Well, the feds actually came out last April and said, yeah, you can have hemp oil or CBD oil, and it's not illegal, and you can still be in possession of firearms. It doesn't make you a terrible person, and it doesn't prohibit you from, federally from possessing firearms. Mm. So now, but if you have the other stuff, if you're doing the marijuana, and probably the biggest clue is if you have to light it, to have the effect, well, that's one way. Or if you have to mix it into brownies or gummies or something like that, you're probably going to be prohibited from having guns if somebody finds out about that. So, yeah. And so anyway, well, we were talking about how much time we got on this thing. We've got, I don't know. Usually Brad's over there
They're
doing calisthenics to tell me. But, yeah, so how much time we got there, Brad? We got, he's at 6. Well, he says
7.
he has 2 more fingers up than you do. Oh.
Everyone does.
That's how they do it in Britain. Okay, thank you very much. Good. I'm going to do that. All right. Preemption laws. 43 states have laws on their state books for firearms that says the state legislature makes the laws on magazine capacity, on waiting periods, on types of firearms, on all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
They are the final word, the only word.
Ooh, the man. They are
Yeah.
the man.
Counties, cities, other municipalities cannot decide among themselves to change that. Okay? And that's great. Those 43 states have had, I think, great success because, boy, I tell you, when you're talking about gun laws, they need to be clear. They need to be concise. They need to be consistent.
Yes.
So that I know that as I'm traveling from here to, say, Weber County, I don't have to unload the gun and put it in my trunk as I cross the border, before I cross the border. You do have to do that when you go into different states right now.
That would be terrible. Like driving to St. George, we'd have to get out every 100 miles and readjust. That would be terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, or adjust to that. So, and now, there's these groups that say, well, they're in control of a city, say. And there was a report or a article, not a report, in thetruthaboutguns.com. And it says preemption laws have become the target of anti-gun politicians, gun control organizations, and their cheerleaders in the media. Yeah. Local politicians who want to impose their own special brand of civilian disarmament in the cities they control are frustrated and they've been thwarted by their state's own preemption laws, which prevent a patchwork of regulations that would make compliance a nightmare for lawful gun owners. So we see where Florida, and Pennsylvania specifically, they have preemption laws. They're 2 of the 43 states that do. And there are politicians, both in their legislatures and in the mayors and that of some of these cities, that are trying to change that. Right here in Utah, they want to do that too. In fact, we had the most recent inkling of it by some county commissioners up in, some county commissioners up in northern Utah, north of here, Weber and Davis County, I believe it's Weber County, that wanted to get their foot in the door and say, we want the ability to ban shooting in certain areas. Okay. Other than the state legislature, there are 2 entities that can regulate shooting or regulate having anything to do with firearm laws. That would be a city can prohibit the discharge of firearms within its city limits, and pretty much every city does that here in Utah. And the state forester or fire marshal, now I got to remember which one, anyway, can declare shooting off limits in certain areas due to high fire danger for certain periods of time.
That's fair.
Okay. Yeah. And so that was passed about 6 years ago, I think, or something. Oh. So when we were talking about shooting and that type of thing, it was for that reason. When we had so many fires down there west of Utah Lake and that. All right. But that's it. Well, they want to ban shooting. And this comes as a result of that tragedy that happened while shooters were quite honestly, they were operating with reckless disregard by using a forest as a backdrop or a backstop.
Oh, that's smart.
Where and one bullet found its way through that forested grove onto a road and through the window of a car that had a 14-year-old that was out for a ride with his parents on a Sunday.
Sad.
And he was killed. And that was, 2 years ago?
Super sad.
Sad and tragic. However, that was a violation of more than one law, including criminal negligence, I would say, and shooting across a road, shooting onto a road, that type of thing. So I don't see, whereas these preemption laws are deficient, I think that in this case, this would be a clear case of an enforcement problem. We don't need more laws, okay? Because they already had a law that prohibited what those shooters were doing. And they were they were found, and they were charged, and they were convicted. And I do think the woman that actually shot had to spend some time in jail.
Wow.
So nothing. I mean, I don't care if you spend the rest of your life in jail. It's not going to, bring that poor young man back. But I think this is primarily a due process, or not a due process, an enforcement issue. All right. So we've got that. We've got the hemp oil. Anything, Casey?
No, I don't think so.
Are we going to go out shooting here pretty soon?
We need to. It's my birthday.
Yeah.
You owe me. Yeah.
I thought, in fact, you said a post said something about that I owe you a gun.
Yeah, you owe me a gun because it said if your significant other doesn't comment in 30 minutes, you get a gun, and you never commented. So, I get a gun.
That's kind of a cheap way of.
And so we need to call Polano, get my pink AK up and going.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I'm going to put a plug in. I'm going to quickly change the subject on this. But I got to put a plug in for Utah Shooting Sports Council.
Yeah.
Go to utahshootingsportscouncil.org. You can see us at the gun shows as well, Crossroads of the West and the other one. And we have a booth right outside. It's called
Utah Shooting Sports Council.
No, I'm talking about the other gun show. Oh, for goodness sakes. Anyway, you can sign up to be a member. Get in free to the gun show, actually, too.
Hooray!
So, if you buy a membership. All right, but go to utahshootingsportscouncil.org. Sign up for the alerts. Sign up to become a member.
Yeah.
Have your whole family a member, have a lifetime membership, a corporate membership.
Hooray!
So, anyway, we are not paid at the Utah Shooting Sports Council.
Nope. You promised me a long time ago that I would get paid, so I said yes.
I don't remember promising.
I haven't gotten a penny.
Yeah, I haven't.
Not even one penny.
I've kept all my promises. You got a new Mini Cooper, for goodness sakes. I promised that, and I came through on that. All right. So, and next week we'll be back. Doran, you going to be here next week?
Hooray!
I think Bill's going to be here.
Hopefully.
Casey?
Yeah. Well, I'll be here, but then I'm going to Ariana Grande. Woo-hoo.
Oh, are you going to go to Taco Bell after and get a Ariana Grande burrito? Thanks for listening, folks. Was it Rocky Ariana Grande burrito.
Thanks, Vern, for telling us about that.
About what?
What?
About the Rocky Mountain Gun Show next
Oh,
week.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us on the stream.
Hooray!
Thank you.